Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This week we are going to talk about letting go of control. If you're like me, you like to be in control because it's fun, because then you know everything. And I am such a planner that it's just kind of like a second nature to me to want to know details. But I think that sometimes that wonderful gift can be manipulated and used for harm rather than good. So I'm going to talk to you about ways that I've learned that I was being a little too controlling and not being loving, and how really letting go of control of the outcome of every situation has changed my life in so many ways. So we're going to get started. I have all my notes in this old phone, so I'm just going to be reading from my phone, so I'm not like texting while I'm talking to you or anything. So one of the greatest things that I've learned is that God has such a beautiful rhythm. And I think that when we learn to flow with Him, rather than try and make our own beat, our life becomes so much more simpler. It becomes so much easier. We really just we are walking lightly. We don't have the same kind of anxiety and nerves and fear and worry about the future, because we're just walking with Him. We're allowing Him to be in control of things. And what I've really learned, and I think that I've been taught this my whole life, but it took me a while too, because I'm the kind of person who has to kind of go through it to finally realize it. I think that I learned that God is backwards. When we say, or when people say, let God have control, you think that you're being controlled. But in reality, you really are just kind of walking in freedom, because you don't have to have your hand in everything. You don't have to be, you don't have to plan everything. You trust Him. But in order to trust Him, we have to know Him. And in order to know Him, and I say this in every video, you have to have a relationship with Him. And so when you're able to really trust God, you're able to let go of the need to know everything. And you're able to kind of, almost in a sense, like flow through life. And I've seen that in the past couple months, that really just giving Him control has allowed me to flow. And even in the most painful and dark times, I was flowing. I wasn't as worried as I normally would be. I didn't have the same anxiety that I had. I was trusting Him with every single aspect of my life, because I really had no choice at that point. Like, everything had kind of fallen apart and I really didn't know what was next. And so I just gave it all to Him. And, a lot of people say, oh, God's in control, so don't worry. Well, no, in reality, He doesn't control us. We have free will, and He gives us the option to either choose His way or to choose our way. And a lot of the times we choose our way, and that kind of leads to, a lot of unfortunate and sticky situations. And so I think that when we choose to give Him control and we allow Him to show us what to do, then we are able to flow. When we make our own beat and we do it our own way, that's how we kind of end up staying in that cycle of unhealthy behavior. And one of the biggest really things for me in my healing journey is that, I tried to do things my own way all the time. I tried to have my hand in everything. I needed to know all of the details of everything. And it didn't stem from a place of and I used the excuse as well, I'm a planner. I need to know everything. I need to know the details because I like to plan. But in reality, it was stemming from that insecurity of not knowing what the future held, and I had to be certain of all the details, because if I was, then I wouldn't have to, I could prepare for whatever was to come. And that's not healthy, because living in a way that's light and free is so much better, because you're open to the spontaneous parts of life. And the spontaneous is amazing because you are just, you don't know what's going to happen. And when something good does happen, it's even better because you didn't have to know all the details. It just happened to you and you can enjoy it so much more. And so I'm going to go to Matthew 11:28. And this is such a quoted verse, like every pastor, like everybody uses it, right? But it's when you actually start reading scripture and you apply it to your life, or not even apply it, but when you start reading it and you allow it to transform your heart, it's so much deeper and more meaningful. And I love this verse so much because Jesus is really talking about exchanging our heaviness, our burdens, our worries, our fears, everything that is not truly a part of us. It's maybe just stems from a deeper rooted issue, and just giving it to him. And he tells us about his burden, which is actually easy and light. And so I'm just going to read verse 28. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And that's just so great to read because, I feel like so many of us, and me especially, have just walked around with this heaviness. And it's almost kind of like a heaviness that we can't even really pinpoint. We don't know what's causing it. And I like this analogy where it's kind of like, you compare all of your weaknesses, all of your just unhealthy habits, all of the pain, all of the things that you've been through, all the trauma, and you compare it to grocery bags. And so rather than just throwing the bag away, you're just stuffing them into a counter, and you're stuffing them in, 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 and eventually it's just so full. And it becomes, it kind of like you can't even put anything in there, and you can't even take anything out because it's so full. And I feel like we do that with all of our issues and all of the pain that we're experiencing. And when in reality, Jesus is just saying, all you have to do is come to me. All you have to do is just give it to me. And then I will show you how to live. I will show you that you can live freely and lightly. And, you're not walking heavy anymore. You're walking lightly. You're walking freely. And that's just so great. So my next point is when we choose to allow God to lead us, and I want to emphasize him, letting him be in control is him leading us. It's not him controlling us. He's not like a puppet master, controlling our every move. We trust him to lead us. Sometimes that involves letting the plan that you had for your life die, letting your dreams die, letting the things that you wanted so badly to die. And when we do that, it can be extremely painful. You have to grieve, because it's the plan that you had for your life. Maybe you invested in a relationship, or maybe you invested in a job, or maybe you invested in yourself or a company or whatever it was, and it didn't work out. And so when we give those broken dreams to God, we are essentially saying that I don't know what's going to happen next, but you do. And he really is any good leader is a good delegator. And he really is a good delegator in a sense where we're giving him the little fragments and the pieces that we see, and he knows the whole picture. He sees your whole life. He knows it. He has the plans he has for you. He knows them all. And we see just little tiny pieces. And so we allow him to lead us into the life and the dreams and the plans that he has for us, because sometimes we really mess those plans up with our own with our own way of doing things. And back to my point earlier, when people say God's in control, well, yeah, he does have a plan for you, but he really isn't required to fulfill your potential. It's up to you to really lean into him and ask him what he wants to do with your life. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's been my friend for a really long time, and I hadn't spoken to him in probably about a year, and I said, hey, so what are you doing now? And he said, well, I just decided to do this thing. And I said, well, what about this other thing? You've been doing that for 10 years. And he said, I just realized that I was doing it because it was feeding my ego. It was feeding my desire to be wanted and to be needed and to be, well liked, and to be like this, just whatever. What did he say? I don't remember what he said, but anyway, he just basically was like, yeah, this was feeding my ego, and it really wasn't the right thing. I loved doing it, but it wasn't the right thing for me, and I wasn't happy. And so he had to essentially let his dream die, the dream that he thought his life was going to look like. Another example for me is I was getting my yoga certification last year, and I was so into it. I've been doing yoga for 10 years. I know there's a lot of Christians that are like, oh, yoga is evil, whatever. Okay, you can have your opinion on that. I think yoga is beneficial. But I was so into it, and I had just immersed myself in the practice, and I was almost done. I think I had maybe 10 hours of training left, and God was like, no. And I thought, God, I prayed about this. You said yes. Or maybe I just wanted him to say yes. And so I was just kind of I'm very stubborn. And so even if someone kind of says no, I'm like, but maybe yes. But is the underlying answer maybe a yes? And so he said no. And I was so devastated because I had invested so much in it. And I really thought that's what I was like, I failed at so many other things. Why can't I just do this one thing? Why isn't this what you want me to do? And it took a couple weeks, and I kept praying about it, and I just kept kind of and I was obedient to what God said. And I got a lot of people didn't agree with me. They thought, you're not really hearing from God. He didn't really tell you to do that. You're so great at it, just do it. But I was really, when I hear from God, I am obedient in most things. There's a couple of things that I've done on my own, but that's why I'm here. Just like the wise prophet Yeezy, he said, I'm trying to right my wrongs, but all my wrongs help me write this song. So hey, no, stop doing things on your own. It's a waste of time. But anyway, but so I was praying about it one day, and I think that my desire to help people to really know their value and to heal their hearts and to heal their minds and heal their spirits is a genuine thing that I want to do. It's something that God placed inside me. I have such compassion for hurting people because I was a hurting person for so long. And I'm still on my journey, to wholeness or whatever. But I still try to do it my own way. And I thought that by doing yoga, I could help people to heal physically. And then throughout the classes, I would give encouraging words or whatever, and I would tell them how amazing they were and how great they were and how God loved them. And, I would take what the enemy meant for evil and I would turn it around for good. And I would be like, yeah, the enemy meant yoga to be an evil spiritual practice, but I'm going to use it to and God's like, no, that's not what we're going to do here. And so, God really spoke to me, and he said, you are no longer going to use your body to prove your worth. And that's how you know something's from God, because the deep wounds that you have. And one of mine really was not respecting myself, not allowing myself to be, I wasn't projecting myself as valuable. I was projecting myself as someone who was easy, who was, you could use me if you wanted to. You could abuse me if you wanted to. You could treat me however you wanted to. And God really knew that that was something that needed to be healed inside of me. And using my body to prove my worth was not what he wanted me to do. And so I chose to be obedient to that. And in some ways, but there's some other things that we worked on. But yeah. And so now I don't know what's next. I don't know what he wants me to do, but I have so much faith in him because he's brought me this far, and he has just transformed my heart, and he has just healed me in ways that I didn't even know I needed healing. But it was all about just giving the control to him and allowing him to show me what I needed to do. I think that as T.D. Jakes would put it, he said, those areas and times in which the death of a dream seemed to stalk your every move are nothing more than entrances into the next realm of your life. God's not burying you, he's planting you. That's so good. Sometimes we have to let a dream die in order to get to where we're going next. Sometimes we have to just give up control in order to allow God to lead us into the place that we're going to next. He is so faithful to us. He doesn't leave us in the dark for very long. Sometimes you do have to sometimes he shows you the next step, but sometimes you have to just take that next step in faith. And we give him an issue. He gives us an outcome. And what's the outcome? I will be with you. Isaiah 43:2. He says, when you walk through the waters, they will not overtake you. When you go through the fire, you won't be burned up. I am your God. I am with you. That's not part of the verse, but you get it. There's so many verses in the Bible that just God is speaking to you, telling you that he is with you, that he won't leave you. Nothing can separate you from the love that he has for you. And so we can have confidence in allowing him to have control, because he never leaves us. When we trust him and we give him our brokenness, we give him our dreams, we give him our life, we give him our heart, he really is faithful to replace anything that is dead or not worthy or can't go with you to the next level or that's been stolen from you. He will replace it with so many good things. And in that we can have joy. And joy is one of the fruits of the Spirit. We have an eternal hope in Christ, and hope produces joy. And, you don't have to be afraid during these times. You don't have to be worried. All that anxiety, all of that fear, all of that lack of peace goes out the window, because we aren't holding on to those things. We aren't holding on to our own burdens anymore. We're giving Christ our burden, and we're taking his, which is easy and light. And so I do want to encourage any of you today, if you don't have peace where you're at, if you don't have peace in your heart and in your job and in your relationships, maybe take a step back and examine, is this really what I want my life to look like? And in doing that, you can also really, you also should really ask God, is this what you want my life to look like? Is this what you want for me and for my future? And are these the plans that you have for me? One main point that I have is that peace begins within you. So stop blaming everybody else for your lack of peace, because it really begins with you doing what's right in your life. Another point that I want to make is when we do let go of control, we have freedom. And Galatians 5:13 says that you do have freedom through this new life. You have freedom through Christ, but don't use your freedom to indulge in the flesh. Use it to love each other humbly, or serve each other humbly in love. So you really do, what I've really experienced is true freedom from all of those things that were holding me back in the past. And in reality, once you experience that freedom and that peace and that know that you don't have that desire anymore to control everything. You don't even want to do unhealthy things anymore. You don't want to hurt people. You don't want to be in unhealthy relationships. You don't want to, you don't want to do the things that you used to do because you see how destructive they were. And you really do have this newfound freedom to just take these amazing steps of faith, to just go into different areas, if you'll explore different things, to learn different things, to try different things. And you don't have the fear and the doubt and the worry that you had before. You have confidence in who Christ is because he's leading you, and you don't have your hand on everything, trying to control everything. So I do want to encourage anybody this week who's going through a difficult time to really give it to God. Allow him to lead you. Allow him to be your peace. Allow him to be your guide through life. He is a light in all dark places, and he truly will light the way for you. And if you do need prayer, or you need just to know that you're not walking alone, please message me. I'll put all my social media platforms below. It's just my name, so you can just kind of look it up. But you're not in this alone. God gives us community, or he wants us to be in a community for a reason. And if you don't have anybody else, or you don't know what your next steps are, or you really just do need someone to encourage you and pray for you, I would love to do that for you. And so, walk in freedom. Let go of the need to control everything. Allow God to show you who you are and what to do and where to go. And you will just experience a whole new way of life. Thanks, guys. See you next week.